Hello everyone, this is Dr. Supriya Singh, Assistant Professor in the Department of English, Vasant Kanya Mahavidyalaya, affiliated to Banaras Hindu University. I welcome you to the lecture 2 of week 2, and the title of the course is Understanding Deconstruction, a Critical Approach. And the title of this particular lecture is An Exploration of Fundamental Concepts and Key Terms by Jacques Derrida. So, proceeding with the lecture, let me tell you that understanding the key terms in deconstruction reveals how meaning is constructed and deconstructed in language and text. It is not possible to deconstruct only, but to construct also. Naturally, when we are deconstructing, there is no meaning possible. So we have to construct and deconstruct and again construct. So this play would go on endlessly, and this is the key idea that Derrida is giving. Now, coming to his term deconstruction, let me tell you that Jacques Derrida, whose 1966 paper entitled Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of Human Sciences, introduces the term to the Western academia for the very first time. So, as I have already told you in the previous lecture, that he was about to deliver on structuralism, but he extended the idea and came up to discover deconstruction. So, let us proceed with this term further. Deconstruction, in essence, means breaking something down to examine its core component and underlying assumptions, often with the goal of uncovering hidden meanings or contradictions. It is a critical process that challenges established structures and interpretations, revealing how things are constructed and the relationship between them. Particularly, it involves analyzing something like a text, an idea, a system, or so by dissecting it into its fundamental parts. It goes beyond simply understanding the surface level meaning in order to seek or to uncover what is beneath the surface. This process, therefore, involves questioning the assumptions and biases that are embedded within a system. Since Derrida's deconstruction is situated in language system only, here the aim is to expose contradictions, ambiguities, and inconsistencies within a text or an idea. Now, to understand the notion of difference, we must revise how language system is based on differences that we have already done in the lecture 2 while dealing with the idea of Ferdinand de Saussure. So I'm just revising it in a minute, that how Derrida begins with the notion of difference expounded by Saussure. Now, meaning according to Saussure is arbitrary, and that there is no inherent connection between signifier and signified. And if there is no connection between signifier and signified, then how meaning is produced? Perhaps because of the prescribed usage, repetitive usage, or convention. Now, another assumption that no word has its meaning in isolation, rather, it has its meaning, or a word possesses its meaning only through its differences from other words in the organizational chain or the contrasting term. So, this we have to remember here, that according to Saussure, a meaning or the term does not have a meaning its own. A meaning cannot be understood in isolation. Rather, we are able to understand meaning by the contrasting pair of term. For instance, in order to understand the meaning of man, we must take recourse to the idea of woman. As well as, so here we are understanding meaning in differences with a contrasting term. Apart from this, he also goes on to say that in a particular sentence, we can carve out meaning on the basis of the other signs in the organizational chain. So, if we are dependent upon the other elements also, then it means that meaning is based on differences and so on. So, here when we are dealing with difference, we must understand that this concept of Saussure, that meaning is based on differences. Now, Derrida coined this term difference in order to add some more thing, and that is differ. Now, differ means to shift. According to Derrida, difference is equal to, or it is a combination of difference and differ. So, meaning is based on differences, as Saussure has said. Apart from this, meaning is also based on how it differs, how it shifts. Now, in order to understand what exactly defer means, let me tell you that defer means delay or postponement. It means that meaning is never fully present, but it is always deferred or postponed. For instance, if one is looking for a word in a dictionary, one would get another word, and which would eventually direct once again to another word without indicating to a final or an end meaning. Now, what I'm trying to say here is, if we look into a dictionary, we are looking for a word, and then we find that there are 6 or 7 words instead of a meaning. So we are getting words as a meaning of a particular word, but they are not meaning, rather they are also words. And if we are choosing a single word out of these 6 to 7 words, and we go on to look again for it, again we are getting several 6 or 7 or so words and no meaning. So we are moving from one word to another word without getting a meaning. So there is no any end meaning, and this way we are just moving from word to word. We are just shifting from word to word. This is called defer. So according to Jacques Derrida, the concept of difference is the combination of difference and deference. Meaning is based on differences as well as it is based on differs, how it shifts. Now, in order to understand the term differ, we should also understand that since meaning is always dependent upon the other words in the chain, in the organizational chain, it is based on a web of differences that shifts and evolve over time. So, this way, we also see that meaning is not fixed, rather, it differs in time and spaces. For instance, if there is a particular word, it may mean differently in different times. For instance, it may mean something different in 16th century, and in the contemporary time, with usage, with certain changes, meaning comes to differ. And this way, it also gets a different meaning or interpretation in different cultural spaces. Now, as an example, we can see that if we are taking a term bold woman, it vary significantly depending upon the historical context, the time, and the cultural or the geographical setting, that is space. Now, for example, in traditional society, that is early 19th century, the meaning of the term bold woman might be a negative level. She could be seen at the time as bold means improper, rebellious, or morally suspect for stepping outside the traditional gender roles. That is, she might be speaking publicly, pursuing education, or rejecting marriages. So, this way, in traditional society of early 19th century, bold woman was some sort of negative label. Now, coming to the late 19th or mid 20th century, we can see that the term begins to take on positive connotations, such as a bold woman can be seen as a woman as reformer. She might be a writer, a social activist who is challenging norms for women's right. Now, this way, when we are proceeding further in the timeline, we can see that in the post 1960s, this term bold woman can be considered as a badge of empowerment. Bold could mean sexually liberated, career driven, politically vocal, or even non conforming in appearance or lifestyle. However, in the contemporary time, we can refer the term bold to women who are confident, assertive, or with expertise in any field like business, art, technology, and so on. Thus, we see that the idea is to emphasize how boldness looks different in different time, and when we are going for space or geographical and cultural spaces across race, class, and identities, we would also see that how the term has different interpretation. Now, as an example, we can see again with the same term that bold women in Western context can take the interpretation which is positive. For example, it can be associated with a woman who is independent, who is having leadership quality, who is ambitious, and so on. However, when we are locating the same term bold women in a more conservative or patriarchal society, we would find that the word may carry some stigma, or bold women can be seen there as disrespectful, too outspoken, or unfeminine. So, this way, bold women becomes a fluid term shaped by evolving social norms, power structures, and cultural lenses. It's both a mirror of societal values and a tool for either liberation or control, depending on who's using it. Now, I think this example is enough to give an idea how meaning differs, how meaning shifts from time as well as in different spaces. So, this way, Derrida's term difference is combining the idea of difference and differ, how meaning is based upon differences, and therefore, no word or no sign has a complete meaning. Meaning cannot be fully captured because it is based upon differences with the contrasting term, as well as it is based upon the differences with the other words or other signs in the organizational chain. Apart from it, he says that meaning also differs. It means that it shifts, it moves on, it carry on, and it has different interpretations in different timelines, in different historical context, as well as in different cultural or geographical settings. So, difference is the concept combining difference and differs. Now, coming to the next idea, that is transcendental signified. It is another term with which we are proceeding now. And here we see that the transcendental signified refers to the ultimate meaning or truth that is sought in a text. In the construction, Derrida argues that this notion is a myth as meanings are contextual and reliant on endless interpretation. Now, as we studied under deference, that meaning differs, it delays, it postpones, and it is never fully present but is always postponed. So, this way, if we are looking into a dictionary, as we have said just now, or we have discussed just now, that if we are looking into a dictionary, we are getting another word and then eventually we are moving to another word, and this process goes on endlessly. We are never coming to a transcendental signified, a final meaning, or an end signified, or an end meaning. So this idea of transcendental signified is an idea, according to Derrida, which we can never achieve. So this is a myth. There is no transcendental or no end meaning or no end signified. Now, in order to understand it in a better way, let us see that this transcendental signified would have been a signified that can control the instability of other signs. However, for Derrida, there is no such signified that can control the other signs or the other meanings. Derrida thus challenges this notion of transcendental signified by arguing that there is no fixed external source of meaning. It is always differ, and it is based on differences, and it cannot be captured fully. For example, the concept of an author standing outside the text and yet guiding the meaning of the text is a widespread idea, and Derrida describes such concept as an external source involved as a dominating entity in the meaning making process as a transcendental signified. So, the concept of a transcendental signified is one who is standing outside the system, who is standing outside the structure, and he is also participating in the structure, but he is a figure who is out of structure as well as inside the structure, and the rules of the structure does not apply upon him. So he is superior to the whole structure. He is the commanding figure in the whole structure, and this way he can go with the process of meaning making. For example, author is an entity who is commanding the text, though he is in the text as well as outside the text, but he is not completely a part of the text, and therefore he has the authority to command over the meaning making process of the text. So he can be considered as the transcendental signified. But according to Derrida, he rejects the idea of transcendental signified because there is no meaning that is possible, that is fixed, that is complete. Now we can proceed with this example to the idea of center. Continuing with the same example, I am coming here to the idea of center. Now let me tell you that the author is also acting as a center because he is not completely the part of the text, but he is also the part of the text, and the rules of the text is not applying upon him, and he is one who is the transcendental signified. He is the one who is controlling the meaning making process. So this way we find that he is playing the role of the center. However, Derrida discards the role of center. He discards the position of center and allows for free play of meanings. Now, see that in traditional structures of knowledge, center often implies a fixed point of meaning or authority, which is being challenged here by Derrida. He critiques structuralism's reliance on center or origin, arguing that structures are not fixed, arguing that structure is paradoxical, and center is both within and outside the structure, a concept he uses to illustrate the inherent stability of meaning. He argues that Western thought has a deep seated desire for a stable or fixed origin or center that provides meaning and order. And this desire is often associated with ideas like God, reason, or a transcendental subject. However, he sees the idea as an assumption or a pre-existing idea that shapes how we understand structure and meaning. This assumption is problematic because it limits the possibilities for understanding and interpretation. In the concept of structure or structuralism, these structures often have a center, something stable that grounds or organizes the system. The center gives meaning, order, and coherence to everything around it. And as we talk of certain examples, we see that in metaphysics, God, truth, or being can be considered as center, whereas in language, logos can be the center. So, this idea of center, according to Jacques Derrida, is paradoxical because it is both inside and outside the structure. It gives the coherence to a structure, but at the same time, it's not subject to the same rule as it is there in the structure. Coming to the example, another example, we see that if there is a teacher in a classroom, she is the part of the classroom, but at the same time the rules of the classroom does not simply apply on her. She is also different from the students, the rest of the classroom, and she is one who can be considered as the commanding figure. So this way she is the center. However, Derrida discards this idea of center, and this can be understood by another example. For instance, if we are talking about a family system, there is head of the family. He can be a male member, an earning member, an aged or old member who is controlling and commanding the rules and regulation of the family. But see that now when we are locating this system of family in the contemporary time, this can be shifted, the center can be shifted. It may shift from the male earning member to a female earning member. So this way, it is not just fixed that center can be only one member, or the position of the center is not fixed. Rather, it is very much possible that change is very much possible. So here, this way, he argues that we can consider that there must be a center, but the idea of center is not very fixed. He argues that modern thought, especially from Nietzsche, Freud, and Heidegger, has initiated a rupture. A rupture means a decentering of the structure. An event that occurred in order to rupture the structure, and the center this way comes into question. And with the questioning of the center itself, the whole idea of a fixed structure with a fixed center gets ruptured. This means we no longer believe in a fixed center. There is no ultimate reference point. Meaning is not grounded. Everything is in play, open, unstable, shifting. And this destabilizes not just structure, but the very idea of truth, identity, and meaning. Without a center, structures are no longer closed or fully knowable. They are always in the state of flux. There is endless play possible. They are moving constantly. They can be redefined, and this way Derrida sees that this play as liberating but also unsettling, because we lose the comforting fixity of traditional metaphysical ideas, and this way endless play is possible. Thank you.